Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nuggets News. It's been a little while, the market's been chopping around, and Kyle and I are going to give you a bit of an update on what's going on in general, have a look at some charts, and maybe talk about some of the world politics that are going to determine what's going to happen next in crypto land as well. But how's things, mate? How you been?
Yeah, pretty good. Just enjoying the sideways chop in the market, getting to sleep nice and early, and yeah, just trying to get the body ready for hopefully the what Raoul Pal is calling the banana zone, or we sort of call the euphoria stage of the market, which usually starts to pick off from about October onwards.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a pretty extended correction. It's kind of what you want to see in terms of just loss of interest and not much engagement. Retail hasn't really entered yet. And we're talking about in the pre-interview how we've kind of seen a mini alt season that was mainly a meme coin season. And I don't think that was
Mm.
really any like new money necessarily coming in. It was just a lot of traders and leverage, and then a lot of them obviously drop back to where they started and that kind of thing. Is that fit with what you've seen in that meme coin space?
Yeah, 100%. So I feel like what happens in the early stage when we come out of, say, bear market and we go accumulation for a while, we come out of that accumulation range and we start to take off with Bitcoin. Usually head up to about the 0.618 fib level. And I feel like what happens is you have all the money of all the people who have been trading from the last cycle that's in USDT sitting on the sidelines. They start to put that back into Bitcoin and altcoins and stuff like that. And it pushes some things like we've seen Solana and Ethereum, stuff like that, out of its accumulation range. And you get a bit of a rally. But then what happens is that stalls out and it doesn't go anywhere. So then people start taking profit because you're up a couple 100%.
Yeah.
Anyone that knows what they're doing, they start wanting to cash out a little bit. And then you get a rollover, sort of head all the way back down, back to almost the accumulation range again.
Yeah.
But like what we were saying earlier, it's like I feel like for a lot of the altcoins like Solana, Ethereum, and a few of the other top ones, we've actually doing really, really well this cycle compared to last cycle. Because if you look at Ethereum, where it was this stage of last cycle, like, towards the end of the halving year, it was still only at like $250, $300,
Yeah.
and then it pushed all the way to 4,000. It was nowhere near coming close to the 2017 all-time high, right? So, yeah, it was very much still going sideways right at the bottom of its accumulation range. And it didn't really start to move. The rest of the altcoins didn't really start to move until the very end of 2020, the start of 2021. That was after Bitcoin had already made a new all-time high and was starting to have its first pullback. So I feel like a lot of people are sort of being like, I'm seeing a lot on social media, people saying, oh, alts are dead this time. We're not going to have an alt season, or this alt season is so bad compared to the 2021 alt season. It's like, you can't compare the euphoria stage of the bull market to just, the year of the halving market. Just, you're comparing two completely different stages of the cycle. We're in reaccumulation right now. People are comparing the reaccumulation year to the bull market year. You just can't do that. You need to compare the current year right now to what was happening in 2020. And most altcoins in 2020 weren't really doing a lot. So I still feel like that stage of the bull run, what we saw in 2021, is going to happen next year. And from October onwards this year anyway.
Yeah, I agree. And in terms of other similarities to the last cycle, I kind of feel that Bitcoin DeFi is still probably the sector that I'm most bullish on. And it's got that gut feel about how bullish I was on Ethereum in, say, 2019, whatever, that crypto winter where you could see things happening, but there just wasn't the trading volumes and liquidity being locked up and all that activity just yet. So, yeah, it was a couple of years ago when we wrote about Bitcoin DeFi being the biggest theme, and we've got. I just might go through quickly some of the projects and whatever. We might have a look at some of those charts as well. But basically, in the portfolio section, once my computer unfreezes, that Bitcoin DeFi narrative. There's a few projects we've got in there, and there's a few that have coins at the moment. I might talk about the JP's ecosystem as well, with Weweswap and Volt and everything going on there. But that's probably the two sectors that I'm pretty bullish on. And it reminds me, of if you look into the Stacks ecosystem. So I think Bitcoin in terms of layer twos is a little bit different to the way ETH's playing out. I don't think we haven't really got the obvious, top 10 layer twos like we do in Ethereum. We haven't got that yet in the Bitcoin space. It's really honestly Stacks that have been taking the lead. And all these projects that we've been interviewing, Alex Labs, Arcade Eco, Stacking DAO, they're all the ones that are building out on-chain lending, a DEX, minting stable coins, borrowing, adding liquidity pools. So that's kind of like they're going to be hopefully the Uniswaps and the Aves of the Bitcoin. So I still think that's got 10 to 100x possible growth ahead in that space. Now, a lot of those projects don't have coins yet. Stacks is the obvious play to get exposure. They've got the Nakamoto upgrade coming in 1 week's time, which can be a huge catalyst. So think about that as taking it from 10-minute slow Bitcoin block times down to a few seconds. So it's
wow.
It's almost like when Ethereum gets congested and too slow, and then everyone goes to Solana or these layer 2. So it allows for a lot of activity and people to get excited. And their Stacks Bitcoin is a pegged Bitcoin on their layer 2. And so people can start to do all this DeFi stuff with Bitcoin very, very easily from all the common Bitcoin wallets like, Lether or whatever you're using. So that can be a huge game changer in a week's time. Maybe that's a catalyst. But any thoughts on that, or you want to maybe look at some of those charts for the ones that do have coins later?
Mate, the chart, I'm just looking at the chart for Stacks right now, and it looks really good. I actually have quite a sizable bag of Stacks as well, but I haven't really checked the chart for a little bit, but it just looks like it's in a massive falling wedge right now. We'll have a look at it properly when we go through all the charts in a bit, but yeah, I mean, that Nakamoto upgrade coming soon is definitely, potential, like, we've been talking about recently, potential could be setting up for a really nice entry for this mid to late September, for moving into the euphoric stage of the bull market, which we're expecting to come post US presidential election, so November onwards. But yeah, it's looking like a really nice position at the moment, but we'll go through it properly when we look at the charts.
Yeah. And for people at home, I might just talk about this other ecosystem that we've been a bit involved with JP Thor and everything he's doing. So he started this Weweswap coin as a bit of a meme coin as a test launch. And that went absolutely bonkers. I think if you could only buy $9 worth, and I think at one stage that $9 was $80,000. 2 weeks later, you can't even really see it on the chart, but it's gone absolutely gangbusters, and it's pulled back a fair bit now because they've done the merge. So if you bought Weweswap, you could have the option to merge into Volt, which is the Vultisig wallet. So guys, JP Thor, the founder of Thorchain, absolute baller in the crypto space, has proved himself over the years. If you haven't used Thorchain, it's the easiest way to swap from Bitcoin to ETH and all the main chains back and forward from your own decentralized hardware wallet or your MetaMasks and your Web3 wallets. So pretty cool stuff. But this is his next project where he's got a few things on the go. So he wants to create a wallet that's secured. Think of it as almost like a two-factor authentication between your home computer, your phone, another device, or email or whatever. So it's very hard for people to lose their private keys or put in their seed phrase and give it to someone accidentally online. It's almost like 3 layers of protection rather than making that one mistake and your funds are gone. So that's pretty cool.
You really need that for the ecosystem to move forward. Like, how many stories have you had from people in your communities and even in my community, stuff like that? People just popping up, oh hey, I clicked on the wrong link and just lost 50 grand. It's like,
yes.
So we need that second layer of protection.
Yeah, so Vultisig wallet, it is on the Android App Store at the moment. I think you can have a play around, but it's not the 3-device safety. You haven't implemented all that yet, and they're fighting to get on Apple Store at the moment. So basically could hopefully become one of the number one wallets out there and be more secure for everyone. But then the long-term vision, that would be to integrate Thorchain, and so you can one click in your own device, all decentralized, not on exchanges that can get hacked or anything, to swap between coins, pool your liquidity, mint stable coins. That would be the ultimate long-term vision, with maybe something like a naming service as well. So I can just send my crypto to Kyle Stagg or whatever handle you buy, the same as people buy their .eth domain names and that. So a really cool wallet where people don't even know they're using addresses. It's all secure. So if you do think that's something that's interesting, you can still buy the Weweswap coin on Crystal DeFi and swap it over to Volt if you're not on the whitelist, because they've got that upcoming whitelist launch date where you can, if you got whitelisted, you can buy the Vultisig directly or whatever. So pretty cool ecosystem. other projects he's got going on in that, he wants to create Weweswap. So the Wewe coin will become a utility token for a bit of a meme coin DEX. And then the vampire attacks, where he wants to start attacking these other liquidity pools and make this all-in-one liquidity pool that's sort of auto-balancing and doing everything for you with his Deca Swap and Vamp. So I think that's a pretty exciting ecosystem. When there's a founder that's got like a top 10 project that's got all these ideas coming, I definitely think that's one you want to watch, and one that we've invested in and one that we're watching for the other things that he's doing. But you've been kind of across that as well. Any thoughts on that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I missed out on the $10 entry into Weweswap, but I managed to buy some after it listed and made a couple of grand out of it. But yeah, and then put a few extra dollars in and got across into Vultisig. So hopefully I'll get a nice result from that. And yeah, I'm in the whitelist and ended up sharing it with my Discord group as well. So a bunch of the guys got involved and we've sort of been tracking that also. So yeah, looking forward to when that goes live. I feel like it's going to be a little bit of what JP Thor likes to call chaos when the whitelist actually triggers. But yeah, hopefully it works out nicely. And I got in extremely early on the merge. I think I was in the first 15 seconds. So I got a really good rate from swapping my Weweswap across into Vultisig. So hopefully I'll be able to get in a similar result when we do the whitelist buys as well and getting in a nice cheap price. So.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, again, it's if it does pull it all off, it can be huge because the space needs a secure wallet like that.
I think it'll long term for sure. It's going to be good. It's going to be good.
Cool. I guess the only other thing we might talk about a little bit before we go to the charts is just the geopolitics and how that might affect crypto. So I think it's looking like Trump's going to get elected, and there's been those talks about a Bitcoin strategic reserve. And that's, again, one of the themes we've been talking about is not just people buying Bitcoin, it's companies like Michael Saylor, and then all of a sudden a lot of companies jump on board and hold Bitcoin on their balance sheet. But then countries like El Salvador, whether it's using it as legal tender or just having a strategic reserve. So I think anything like that becomes concrete rather than just rumors, that can open the floodgates pretty quickly for every country going, geez, especially if America and Trump go first, we need to hold some Bitcoin on our balance sheet.
Yeah. If America goes, the rest of the world has like a force to follow, basically. So every other country will put Bitcoin on their balance sheet as well over the next 3 to 4 years. So it's just like, that's just a massive slam dunk for the industry if that does happen. My only issue is since they did the switch from Joe Biden to Kamala, she's gone up massively in all the polls, and now she's actually leading him by a few points in a lot of different polls. But I don't know if that's just a little bit of a honeymoon thing, but they always rig the polls in favor of the Democrats anyway, right? But as we saw in 2016, but yeah, I'm just worried. Like, she's definitely had a bit of momentum at the moment, and Trump had the assassination attempt and stuff like that, and everyone was like, "Oh, 100% he's going to win now." Look at what happened when Reagan had the assassination attempt and stuff like that. They absolutely demolished it. But I'm just a bit concerned that she does have a lot of momentum right now. That could massively change after the debate. They're going to debate, I think, it's either the 10th or the 17th of September. It's changed a few times. I'm not sure 100%, but I think that'll be really crucial. The Democrats did release a 10-point plan, or it was like a 200-page document on their policies. And basically there was like one page on economics and the rest was all climate change, LGBTQ stuff, and then like abortion rights. And it's just like, wow, if these people get into power for another 4 years, the world's going to be in a really, really bad spot, in my opinion, because they'll just destroy the US economy and the rest of the world will have follow-on effects from that. The other thing is, though, that will probably lead to massive printing. So I know a lot of people are getting a bit concerned. Hey, if the Democrats do win again, does that mean that crypto is screwed because they're going to attack it really hard? And supposedly she's looking at Gary Gensler for the Treasury Secretary, which is Jared Yellen's job right now. So who knows how that's going to end up. But for me, I can't see that being positive for the world in general. But that might also end up in massive printing because Democrats love to spend as well. And we all know when the Fed Reserve prints, and we do have massive QE, that's going to end up in upwards pressure for BTC and, the rest of the assets as well. But, so I'm not too concerned. Hey, if Trump gets in, I think it's going to be great for the world, US economy. We'll all benefit from that. And then Bitcoin is a strategic reserve. That's going to be really positive. If the Democrats and Kamala win, it'll probably be worse for the economy, might send us into recession, which is going to equal into, big QE, big stimulus packages, and they're going to have to print to save it anyway in the end. So it's like both results. It's like basically what Raoul Pal always says, like everything just leads to more cowbell, which is monetary printing, and is going to lead to upside. So it just depends if we have a big crash in between that or not.
Interesting you said about some of these new polls showing Kamala Harris in front, but did you say Elon just tweeted this morning a poll and it's got Trump at 80%, her at 20% with 2 million votes so far as we're recording this. So that's still got 20 hours left. So that poll could get, tens of millions of votes. Whether or not that just says more about his followers being aligned with Trump or not. But, I don't know if I believe that she's so quickly come from nowhere and been so disliked to being in front by a few points and stuff after. It's all like the Trump assassination attempt, and then it's almost like it's a non-event. Does everyone even remember it, or is it not one?
The media is trying to squash it as much as possible.
Yeah. Anyway, interesting
Very concerning. Times. If you're not on X, basically that's the problem. If you're not on X, you don't see any of that sort of stuff. You're saying, oh, Kamala has been the best vice president in history, and you look at all the amazing things she's done. What are the amazing things she's done? Oh, don't worry about it. It's just amazing. They never talk about any actual policies. She hasn't done an interview with anybody. So it's just like they're trying to basically do what they did last time with Joe Biden, keep him in the basement, and then hope that people just come out and vote for him. Or their strategy is get the illegals on the ballot this time. So we'll see what happens without getting too deep into it.
But I think the kind of overarching thing that we're seeing, particularly across Europe at the moment, is that just people are just so unhappy with those in charge. Yeah. And it's kind of like, I don't think the government are necessarily the bad guys. Like it's the money that runs the world, the BlackRocks and the super elites and whatever. But it's getting to the point where politicians, I think, are really pressured. It's one thing to just say one thing and do another and get bored off and live your happy life. But I think it's once people are really rioting in the streets, and it's just this constant division, every topic, whether it's, do we even go there? You know what I'm talking about. It's all these the big new age wokeisms and all this stuff. It's just demoralizing and getting rid of the fabric of, history and culture and family, just a nice, steady, balanced life. It's almost like you're crazy if you want to live a normal life these days and not have all these wild values on the fringe that are pushed upon us and as the new normal for the majority. It's just not the case anyway.
100%. And, it's basically Marxism playbook 101, right? So get in there, destroy the fabric of society, and also you sort of beat down the people who are the top performers, the people who are healthy and in shape and, attractive people who are driven and doing really good things, successful in life, sort of beat those people down. And then you promote people who are overweight and slobs and, that sort of thing. And you sort of push society to idolize these false gods, right? And that's the whole idolizing false idols type thing that, you see in biblical texts and stuff like that. Interesting the direction that it's going in. And Kamala also talks a lot about, and Jordan Peterson talks about how this is such a bad thing as well, forcing equality of outcomes instead of equality of opportunity, which is forcing people to end up with everyone gets the same result, which is basically communism, Marxism 101, versus give everybody the same opportunities. And then the people who work hard will win, and the people who are lazy and don't do anything don't do that well. And that is what creates a successful, prosperous society with, moving forward. And the other side, basically you punish the hard workers and you reward the people not doing anything. And that annoys the hard workers, so they produce less. And the lazy people, you just create a much larger group of lazy people who don't want to do anything because people are naturally lazy. So why would you do anything if you can get paid the same amount by the government for sitting at home and eating a packet of Doritos and getting fat?
Yeah. Yeah. And with the immigration thing, I think Australia's an interesting one because we've had very multicultural for many years, but I think the key difference there is integration. People come over and there's the Italian cafes and the Indian restaurants and, whatever, people playing different sports and integrating with that culture. It has never really been got to the point like it has in Europe, where there's just these sheer numbers and they put them wherever they can fit them. A lot of them don't have jobs and that kind of thing, and it makes it very hard for them to sort of integrate. Or they probably, a lot of these countries where they're now coming from, they don't really want to. They've got their own beliefs that are so different from the Western places they're moving to. You can see why that's frustrating, not just because of those reasons alone, but it's the fact that there's not the capacity. Like if there's 100 houses on the street and 100 families, and then all of a sudden they bring in 5 more and there's not 5 more houses, well, they end up on the street. They don't have a job. Like, this is going to happen. Why are you doing it? Let alone the friction that it's causing that's now ended up in riots in most European countries.
Yeah, it's scary. And then you have to sort of question, like, why is this happening? And the EU is forcing it so badly. So Hungary is the only country that's really pushing back against it. But they're trying to fine them $200 million a month or something like that, because they decided they're not accepting illegal immigrants anymore. They're only going to accept legal migration. And the illegals are all getting denied at the border. And the EU is basically trying to force them to take them and fining them hundreds of millions of dollars. It's like, why is this push happening to destroy the cultures of these countries and create almost anarchy and unrest? It's like, why are the politicians or the elites forcing this to happen? So yeah, it's we're definitely moving into some scary times. It's like, what I keep saying Raoul Pal, but all those guys they're always talking about the fourth turning, right? And it definitely feels like we're in that stage of society right now. Hopefully we can get out of this fourth turning period without a major world war, because typically that's when it does happen. It's about the 80-year life cycle. And how long has it been since World War II? Pretty much 80 years exactly, right? So, we're coming to that third, fourth generation of the 20-year brackets. And it's like, okay, no one really is alive, from who was around in World War II. If they are, they're all in their like late 90s at the moment, right? They're quite old.
Yeah.
So it's like those people who experienced that major horrific war, they're not around to be like, hey guys, the direction we're going in is really bad and re-steer the ship. And you have these other people who were born after that period who think it's a good idea to push the ship in this direction. So it's like, we will see.
Interesting. All right, let's have a quick look through the charts if you like, and let us know what you think. But to me, it kind of feels like that catalyst next week, the stacks, that could be a catalyst, but we need some sort of catalyst to get people really interested again.
100%. So at the moment, the major thing that's holding us down is the monthly all-time high from 2021. So definitely jump onto the monthly chart and put that onto your charts, guys. I'll show you here. So it's the highest close that we had in 2021. And that just seems to be a very key level right now. If we look on the daily time frame, we just basically touched it perfectly yesterday and rejected from there. So and at the moment, Bitcoin is just sort of bouncing between this value area, which is the bracket I sort of have through here, and our VWAP through here, which is our blue line. But that's more of a bit of a lower time frame thing to look at. I will get up the yearly VWAP, because I think it's just really important to understand this, because the price has just been ping-ponging between this for the entire range. We can see we failed to get out of the yearly VWAP at basically 69K at the end of July, and then we did a full rotation down to 50K, which is the value area low, and now we're sort of stuck around the VWAP here. So if we fail to get back above this blue line here, which is our a VWAP average, I could easily see us having a rollover in September. If we look at seasonality, I'll just get it up here and show you guys. Seasonality, September is actually the most bearish month of the year, with only a 30% probability of having a green month. So 70% most likely we're going to have a red month in September. And the average is minus of 5%, median minus 6.5%. So we easily could roll over here if we can't get back above here and start to push up something like this back to the value area high. It's very likely that we could see something like this happen in September, and we find the low, and then we sort of get a bit of a reclaim. And what we want to be looking for is higher lows to start kicking in here. If we go back and look at last year, it's basically exactly the same thing that what happened. Middle of the year was really slow and boring. Then we had a bit of a sell-off in August. September was pretty slow, but then we ended up putting middle of September, we put in the bottom. And then what happened is we put in the low here, then we put in our higher low and then higher low again. And then we start breaking out of some key levels. So that's what we want to be looking for in the end of September into early October, is this sort of action from some sort of a significant low. We start making higher highs, higher lows, and then we get that change in trend. And then, typically what we will see is around the time of mid to late October, especially pushing into the US presidential election, a bit of a breakout and a run. And if we do get to that sort of price action, altcoins will definitely take off. And I just want to show you guys stacks because we were just talking about this one before, and it just looks like a massive falling wedge getting set up, for its next cycle, right? So once Bitcoin sort of breaks out, starts to push to new all-time highs, this easily could have a rollover, something like this, for September. And then, we finally get a breakout of this downtrend, and then, we flip back into an uptrend. But what I'll be looking for is a reclaim of this yearly value area low. So a lot of time what we have, you have a break into the value area low, retest that, and then you get a look for a rotation play to the value area high. So that's basically what I'll be looking for on a play like Stacks. And a lot of altcoins are looking similar to that as well at the moment. So yeah, what other coins did you want to flick through, Alex?
Just before we get off Stacks there, I think that's a good example of like the fundamentals aligning with the technicals. Like we're very close now to a major, the upgrade that we spoke about before, Nakamoto upgrade, and it's very close to resolving this pattern. So like you said, maybe it has that one more wick down, or maybe it actually breaks out and comes back to retest that falling wedge and then takes off. But it's always good to see when there's really good fundamentals happening under the surface and a chart like that's given back whatever that is, 70% or so after a big monster run. So that's a really, really a positive risk reward trade, I think, that I'd really, really like.
Yeah, so the options are you just average in throughout here, which is, to be honest, a lot of what most people do. They just try and, okay, I'm going to try and average in somewhere through here over the next couple of weeks, or, you wait for specific triggers to happen. So one trigger would be a sweep of this low here, right? A nice swing failure pattern. That would be an entry trigger. Or, if it's a bit more bullish, because, we do have that Nakamoto upgrade coming, maybe we have a little swing low with Bitcoin over the next few days, and the Nakamoto upgrade kicks in, and that builds some excitement. So then I can buy a breakout of the downtrend. Or the other one is just buying a reclaim of the value area low. And then the other one, if it does push in and then you get a pull back and retest the value area low, which is basically $1.55, then I can buy that as well, looking for the rotation play up to here. So yeah, and then if you do get in late, you can also sometimes get basically like a bull flag in here on the VWAP. Sometimes we get what we call compression around the VWAP. And then the last trade, if you are late, if you get something like this, then we do pick up compression, another bull flag, or a retest of the value area high. So, but most likely we want to be getting in a bit earlier rather than waiting until a fair bit later in the push. So those would be the way. That's the way that I'm looking at, how I would enter into this if I didn't already have a position. I do have a position, but I probably will add to this, and those will be the points where I look to get in.
Beautiful. Well, I don't look at too many others today. I know you did a pretty big update. Maybe just quickly, ETH and Solana, dollar and against Bitcoin. But I know you've been doing plenty of more detailed updates as well for people that want to really dive into the altcoins.
Yeah, so Solana, same thing. We're sort of like just been in this range since when? Middle of March, right? It's just been going sideways. It does look really good against Bitcoin. We'll have a quick look at that in a minute, but it's the same thing. We've sort of just been like bouncing off the VWAP, bit of rotation down to the value area low here. We're just sort of holding at the moment on top of the VWAP here, so that when we're sitting around the VWAP, it means that the market is in balance. There's no upwards pressure. There's no downwards pressure. People are happy to see it sit where it is. And it's going to take Bitcoin moving up, above like 60, 70K, so above 70K, breaking out to new all-time highs before this goes nuts as well, right? So at the moment, just looking at this, like the market is in balance. We could definitely see, that September low maybe come back down to like 120 or something like that again. I think that would be a really nice entry around that 120 area. towards the middle to late September could be a really nice entry for this, because I think that most likely, we've had a really strong push, big reaccumulation up here. Most likely this will end up pushing again when Bitcoin goes through, its euphoric stage of the cycle. And I think this can easily end up pushing up to like $500 or something like that once we get into that really big pump phase of the cycle. And it'll end up just looking like something like this, what we had happen in 2021.
Yeah, nice.
So yeah, looking just quickly at the Bitcoin Solana chart. Yeah, pretty nice here, continuously making higher lows through here, and sort of compressing at the top. So just need to see what it does over the next couple of months. I think eventually it will outperform Bitcoin and, have a nice breakout and make ground against, and, we'll be looking for it to retest 0.0043, which is the previous all-time high eventually, and see where it goes for there. But I think it will definitely play catch up once Bitcoin moves to its new all-time highs. But I would expect altcoins would start to move a lot more aggressively against Bitcoin. Usually after Bitcoin makes its first pullback after it's hit its all-time high. So say Bitcoin pushes to like 100K and then has a pullback to like 85 or something like that. That's the period where altcoins will really take off and start to move aggressively. I'll just quickly jump onto ETH here. ETH is looking a lot weaker, to be honest. Solana sort of being sideways in this, sideways trend up here. In its range, whereas Ethereum sort of broke its range and had a full rotation under the value area low. And that's basically because, it had a lot of weakness after the ETFs went live, and there was a lot of ETH getting dumped out from Grayscale. So extra selling pressure through there. So I think this is going to be an amazing entry. Like if we look at what we had back here, which is our accumulation range on Ethereum for almost 2 years, and, we had a really nice push, because everything was happening with the Bitcoin ETFs. It dragged the entire market up, probably higher than what it should have gone. And so we now have had that corrective phase, and it's actually come back to retest the exact high. Like you can see here, there's a full retest here of the accumulation range. And a lot of altcoins have actually done that as well. And it's sort of reset the market. I think what's happened is the market ran a little bit too hard too early. And, whenever that happens, it finds its way to get back to where it should be. That's why we've had this corrective phase, because we did get a little bit of ahead of ourselves. I think, like if we look at Ethereum, where we are in current market cycle versus where we were post-halving last market cycle, right? Ethereum was still, basically at $225. So it's like, or even like we're just sort of breaking out maybe at this period through August, right? About $350. Whereas if we look at where ETH currently is, it's basically relative to being around maybe like $800, $900. So we are well ahead in terms of price compared to where we were last market cycle. And I think that's the same with a lot of altcoins. Like most altcoins, they didn't start breaking out and pushing into the next part of their bull run until Bitcoin had already broken out of $20,000, ran to like $35,000, $40,000 and started to have its first pullback. So a lot of people are getting concerned, alt season is terrible this year. It's because they're comparing, this price action that we had here in 2021. They're comparing that to the year that we had in 2020 of this cycle. Like you can't compare the two. Like you're comparing bull market blow off top year compared to basically the reaccumulation stage of the cycle. So for me, this has been a really bullish reaccumulation stage. And we could see that flow on through into the next stage of the cycle when we move into the bull market, which is coming most likely November onwards. So those are the main two things. And I think the key thing we need to look for with ETH BTC is this trend line that's been in place for almost 2 years now. Once that finally breaks, that'll be the really good Ethereum trade. And you can also watch the Bitcoin dominance chart as well, which has just been grinding up constantly. This might end up finding its way all the way back up to 61% before that finally rolls over. But just watching for that trend to finally break. Eventually it will, but I wouldn't be surprised if we do something like this. Bitcoin finally gets its push up and leads everything for a little bit, and then we finally have a big sell-off back down to here. And it will look similar to, this and also what we had in 2017 as well, where you have about 1 to 2 months of just Bitcoin dominance just dropping straight down while Ethereum, Solana, and the rest of the altcoins absolutely go nuts. and finally play catch up. So yeah,
awesome, perfect. Yeah, I guess that's been a fantastic conversation. I hope you guys have enjoyed that one at home. As always, if you want all our daily alpha and research, Kyle's updates and so on, head over to nuggetsnews.com.au. I think we're up to 700 and something members now, and we're going to do that lifetime deal for the first 1,000 back like we did in end of 2017. So links to Kyle's course down below and all Kyle's socials where he does all his great stuff. But otherwise, mate, any final thoughts for people at home?
Yeah, I think the main thing to remember here, guys, is seasonality, right? Which I was showing you just before. September is, on average, the worst month of the year. And, even if we look at NASDAQ, the last 10 years, we've had 8 down months in September. And, the 2 months that was green was, only just slightly green. Yeah. So expect down in September. If we get upside, okay, brilliant. But make sure you're in a position where you're not, going to get liquidated on anything. You're going to be in a lot of pain if the market does sell off. I like to be in positions where psychologically I'm set up. If there is downside, I'm making some money. I've got some money on the side, so at least I'm increasing the size of my coins or something like that. I'm building my stack up. So if the market does sell off, I'm not panicking. I'm not sweating. I'm not being able to sleep at night. Oh, what if we have another sell off tomorrow? I've lost so much money. And then you end up selling the bottom just before it reverses. You want to be in a nice, cool, calm position during sell-offs because you've got money on the side. So you can then buy in. If we do have a big sell-off, you can add back in, increase the size of your stack, and then you're in a good position when it rotates finally and bounces.
Yeah, good advice, good advice. Interesting times globally and in the crypto market. So we'll be back with another update in future, and we'll see how the world's going in crypto at that stage. But great chatting as always, mate. Take care.
Awesome, brother. Love your work. Chat soon.